afternoon. Thank you, Luna, for a very kind introduction. Great pleasure for you, but great pressure for me to be here. Ladies and gentlemen, how many of us here have ever encountered a patient whereby you intubate the patient and the patient arrested? May I just see show of hands. How many of you have ever encountered such situation or be part of the team that manage such patients? Just really show of hands. Wow, almost all patients, all the audience in the hall can relate directly with my topic today. But I'm going to tweak a bit the topic of today's presentation. I was given intubating collapsing patients. I find it hanging, so I'm going to tweak it to why intubating collapsing patients. For many years, RSI has been believed the answer to be the solution to our patient's problem. Rapid sequence intubation. And I tell you, towards the end of this lecture, we should change the mantra to resuscitate before you intubate. RSI, rapid sequence intubation, is a myth to some of our patients. It's not a blanket rule. What if I tell you that every 40 intubations that you do, one will get cardiac arrest? What if I tell you some studies show that every 25 intubations that you do, one will get cardiac arrest? That's a scary number actually. Even worse, even more frightening, that those who had cardiac arrest had 4 times higher risk of death compared to those who you intubate that does not have cardiac arrest. Now, this situation reminds me of my early days as an O in a tertiary hospital, whereby I'm managing this uncle. I call him Uncle Nick Fury. Well, it's not real name, but this uncle came to our ED. A 78-year-old gentleman with underlying chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, with heavy smoker. He presented with 2-day history of acute dyspnea. His BP was sky high, heart rate was tachycardic, saturation was 91% on room air. It was febrile as well. Examination: cracked lips, dehydrated, dry tongue. His tachypneic with respiratory of 30, and lungs got bilateral crackles with generalized bronchi. Physical examination also revealed there's a raised JVP, loud second heart sound, there's a pan-systolic murmur of the tricuspid area with gallop rhythm and pedal edema bilaterally. So knowing that patient having heart failure, there was bronchi generalized, what I did was the whole team decided to put him on NIV and start him on carbon nebulization. This was his chest X-ray, diffuse reticular changes. This was his ECG. Some of you may detect some abnormalities there, we'll discuss about it later. And ABG revealed metabolic acidosis mixed with respiratory acidosis based on Winter's formula, and it's not doing good. As you can see, his lactate is sky high, his CO2 is climbing up, and he's tired. This uncle is not doing well. 6 minutes later, he deteriorated. He got worse. I was wondering why did the NIV did not work. The combivent should be working for him, but it did not. He gets more tachypneic, more restless, the blood pressure plummeted to 86/50, and saturation max is 92% despite on CPAP and the combivent nebulization. And to make things worse, suddenly he developed fast AF on a cardiac monitor. Well, we decide for intubation for impending cardiorespiratory arrest. RSI, we thought is the solution to all the patient's problem. That's what I believed back then anyway, during the early years as my MO. But little that I know, the moment we give the fentanyl, the midazolam, the succinylcholine, his condition just got worse and worse. BP dropped further to the point of unrecordable. And what was thought to be impending became real. Despite all the research effort, Uncle Nick died. I was totally puzzled. The whole team was scratching our head. What did we do wrong? We thought we are actually doing everything on the right track. We start him early on IV, patient deteriorated, we give him that, give him some fluid to support the blood pressure before the intubation. Why did the rapid sequence intubation did not solve the problem? Why did he die? It's a big problem to understand. Let us pause and think for a while. Be like Dr. Strange, go back to your past, try to dive into the future and anticipate what's going to happen. Gather our thoughts. So we were like, let's go back and see what's wrong with this uncle. You can decide either to be Hulk or Iron Man. Hulk, smash everything, do something without thinking. But I choose to be the Iron Man. Why? Because we analyze the situation, know your enemy, know what's wrong with the patient, the pathogenesis of the disease first. Know the why before the what. Know what's wrong with the patient before you know what to do. So in this case, understanding the risk and benefit of any intervention is very, very important. So looking back to understand why did he collapse, putting things together, Uncle Nick is having COPD, advanced one anyway. He's got heart failure signs with all the risk, GBP, bilateral crackles, gathered rhythm and whatnot. He's overtly in failure. And ECG is having tall RA with V1, V2, V3, with ST depression V1, V2, V3. He's got big P inferior leads as well as right axis deviations. All are pointing towards diagnosis of acute heart failure with underlying, in this case, most likely pulmonary hypertension. Now, why I'm highlighting this? The special cohort of patients that perhaps the most neglected, underdiagnosed, overlooked diagnosis in our recent years. Studies have shown that it is very difficult to diagnose because they present just like any other heart failure patient and just like COPD patients. Number two, it is extraordinarily difficult to manage. It's a consensus. We have to acknowledge that. And 20% of symptomatic pulmonary arterial hypertension present to ED, in and out, get admitted, discharged, and takes 2 years for them to be diagnosed officially as pulmonary arterial hypertension. That's the challenge. And even more difficult, the European Society of Cardiology did not recommend intubation. If possible, avoid intubation. But we can't avoid intubation. If patient need it, there must be a way to handle it. How and when to suspect? Based on the European Society of Cardiology classification, there are 5 different classifications of pulmonary arterial hypertension. The one I had in the star are the one that we are commonly encountered in the emergency department. COPD patient, chronic PE patient, heart failure patient, and idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension. So COPD patient is among the most common presenting symptom that is actually the secondary cause to your pulmonary arterial hypertension. It's about balancing your systemic vascular resistance versus your pulmonary vascular resistance. Normally, SVR is higher than PVR. But in this case, your PVR is much higher than SVR. Therefore, you're putting pressure on your SVR to bring the blood to the right side, to pump to the heart and go to the left side. The issue with pulmonary hypertension is that they have elevated pulmonary arterial pressure of more than 25 mmHg during right heart catheterization. And to put things into perspective, normally your right side only requires 25% of your stroke work to bring your stroke volume to the left side. Because of this pulmonary arterial hypertension, they go into some maladaptive response. In the heart, the capillaries are hardened, the vasculature is hardened, so afterload is increased in your PVR. Therefore, the right side of the heart had to do some adaptation to overcome this in order to maintain the cardiac output. One important principle to understand is that the RV and the LV, they share the same septum. The ventricular interdependence is an important concept to understand. The moment your RV enlarges, your RV hypertrophies, the LV will be compromised because the septum will bulges and push towards the LV area. Therefore, diminishing the cardiac output, activating the RAS, activating the baroreceptor and all the sympathetic response, and the vicious cycle continues on and on and on. These are the examples. As you can see, the parietal long axis, the RV is now bulging into the LV. So it goes here, the D-shaped LV, the RV is so huge, it's a pulmonary hypertension. And this video shows the example of how the severity of high pressure on the right side compromised the size of the LV. This is short axis, D-shaped LV. You can see the size of the RV there is very huge. And this one is the apical long axis, the same thing, showing the size of the RV is so huge. Just imagine you are managing this kind of patient. Do you think they can tolerate your fluid if you think they are hypertensive? It's about managing the preload, the afterload, the systolic, as well as the RCA perfusion. When you think about pulmonary hypertension, you have to think of these four, because all these four will lead to the reduced cardiac output. Just to recall a bit of pathophysiology here, it's very important to understand the why. Remember, the topic is why, so that we know what to do. So in order to manage this patient, let's dive deep into the patient, Uncle Nick's heart for now. Go. Remember the preload, the contractile force, and the afterload. In the patient with pulmonary arterial hypertension, they already have reduced preload. The size of the RV is enlarged to the point that there's not much venous return can be included into the RV area anymore. The venous return, just imagine, just now as we talk about the pulmonary vascular resistance, the afterload will prevent further venous return from the systemic vascular resistance. What happened in Uncle Nick? We give him an IV. We increase the intrathoracic pressure. We thought we were happy doing something good for him, but we are not. We are actually increasing the afterload, because when you give pressure, further compressing the vascular resistance, afterload increases. At the same time, the intrathoracic pressure from the NIV prevents venous return. So what we're doing is actually, we are reducing the preload. The preload is very important because you want to maintain the cardiac output. The stroke volume must be maintained as well. Now, the second point of it, the whole thing depends on the filling time. What we give to him, we give him nebulization. We thought we were solving his problem by giving him the neb, but we are not. The filling time here referring to the diastolic filling time especially. In the patient with pulmonary arterial hypertension, RV, RA filling depends on systole as well as diastole. But when you have extra pressure increase in the right atrial pressure in the pulmonary hypertension, the filling and the perfusion of the RV and RA only occurs during diastolic phase. Now, to make things worse, you make him tachycardic, you make him AF, you give him nebulization, you cut short their diastolic filling perfusion time. You are predisposing patient to ischemia. Contractile force, as you can see, there's not much contractile force in this patient anymore. We are pushing him to the limit. So as a result, we're pushing him to the limit because he's working at this end of this graph here. The Frank-Starling curve is almost exhausted. So Uncle Nick is actually now like this little goat here. We are hanging on the thread. The moment we intubate him, which I thought the solution of the problem, he just falls to the ground and dies. What happened? Factors that reduce preload, as I mentioned just now, the sedative agent, all classes of sedative agent will cause reduced in preload. It blinds the sympathetic response and rapid loss of vascular tone and also hypovolemia. Neuromuscular paralysis that we give to the patient, it loss of muscular tone and result in venous pooling. What about the sedation, neuromuscular paralysis, and also the loss of the spontaneous respiratory effort? Normally, when we inspire, you create intrathoracic pressure that creates a vacuum for the venous return to the right side of the heart, and it's lost when you intubate the patient by giving the sedative agent. And the mechanical ventilation, just as mentioned, increase the intrathoracic pressure. Now, why he crashed, as I mentioned, he's got all the prerequisites to collapse already. He's got all the ingredients to collapse. He's got a very severe comorbidities to begin with, but not enough. We are adding some injuries to him because he's got some physiological component that also contribute to his collapse. He's hypovolemic, he's hypertensive, he's hypoxemic, he's acidotic, and his category administration was halted iatrogenically by us. So remember the physiologic killers. Scott Weingart says heart killers, yeah. So in this case, on top of what he had in terms of pulmonary hypertension, he's got the heart killers, the physiological component that needs to be corrected: hypertension, oxygen deficit, and the precipitation metabolic acidosis. It was highlighted many times in many conferences, including our OMAS conference. By the way, our own Scott Weingart in IGN. This is not him, look like him, sound like him, but it's not him, by the way. So that was highlighted in the IGN. Last year, highlighted about heart killers as well, which again highlighted the importance of us in the emergency department to correct this physiological component before we decide to intubate the patient. Remember this formula: intubation with the presence of the heart killers is equal to death. And these are the parameters besides the heart killers. that has been studied as a good predictor for cardiac arrest. Again, hypertension with good predicted value, hypoxemia, absence of good pre-oxygenation, age as well as obesity. The first three are reversible, the first three are modifiable. Age and BMI obviously not. Now on top of that, the recent evidence has suggested that shock index, even the shock index has been studied extensively for management of trauma and sepsis and whatnot, but shock index has been proven to be effective in predicting patients who will get arrest or post-intubation hypotension. And many studies have shown that any patient with shock index of above 0.8 predicts peri-intubation or post-intubation hypotension, and above 0.9 it predicts post-intubation cardiac arrest. And Prof. Amar want to also emphasize this in multiple crashing conference state of using shock index before we decide to intubate the patient. Now, shock index for unclinic is actually 1.6. I didn't know this back then, but looking back, it's actually so bad. It was not resuscitated well at all. If at all, in the ED department, 3 a.m. in the morning, the young animals were so tired, patient intubated and then collapsed. If you forget everything else, at least you remember this mnemonic, the causes of the hypotension post-intubation. Shit. It's acidosis, could be anaphylaxis, tamponade, pulmonary hypertension, could be stacked breath because of the COPD or asthma, or maybe you're hyperventilating the patient, with hypovolemia, induction agent that we give you too much, tension pneumothorax, or it could be electrolyte imbalances. On top of that, the icing that kill off this patient as well is the development of the atrial fibrillation towards the end. Do not disregard these very common dysrhythmias in the world. Atrial fibrillation in the setting of patients who are unwell just lost the patient physiological atrial kick. The P wave, which is atrial depolarization, helps to fill out the RV during the diastolic filling time. When patients go into atrial fibrillation, they lost the P wave. There's no longer atrial kick available, so they compromise the RV filling again. In the patient with pulmonary arterial hypertension, development of atrial flutter, atrial tachycardia, atrial fibrillation has been recognized as a serious end-stage complication of pulmonary arterial hypertension. Looking forward, besides managing your hot killers, since that intubation, taking away the respiratory effort and all that can kill the patient, there's a recent evidence showing that Saviour protocol probably perhaps the way that we're going to go forward. This is done in ICU. Saviour stands for spontaneous airway ventilation with inotropes and optimized respiratory physiology. There's a recent paper published in January 2019. So something we look into, perhaps from upstairs to downstairs, we can start thinking about this. So the physiological killers that we have to correct before we intubate. Think of the hot killers. Think of this component of oxygenation. Think of the acidosis. You have to correct this, and especially in the patient with pulmonary hypertension, we can use dobutamine and Lurinon is the one that recommended to be used in the pulmonary hypertension. Do not give too much fluid because you barge the patient's heart, and also remember, if you give too much NIV in this patient, it will cause you compromising the afterload as well. So, some recommendations before I end. Remember, in managing patients with pulmonary hypertension or post-intubation hypertension, think of fluid, think of pressures, think of reducing the dose of the sedative agent. Use ketamine or etomidate as your sedative agent. Avoid hyperventilation and use low peak or low setting target volume. So, one recommendation for me, if you want to stick with your RSI, put the early P in the front, which is physiological parameters. Think of PAH, pulmonary arterial hypertension. Think of the hot killers, shock index, the physiological parameters settle. Then you can start thinking of your other P's. So, as a take-home message, resuscitate before you intubate. Any chronic lung disease coming to ED with dyspnea, think of pulmonary hypertension. Optimize the preload, afterload, as well as RV systolic function. Add NEOP before your intubation with the physiological parameters. And hypotension post-intubation, think of shed pneumonia. Lastly, Scott Weingart says intubation is a license to kill. But if you do it well, you do it with all the precautionaries, it can be your ticket to heaven. Thank you very much.